Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Monday edition of Sidelines, broadcasting live from Atlanta. Tommy Kane, Billy Roberts will be joining us here in just a couple of minutes. Great show in store for you today. As always, a lot to talk about. Had the big baseball weekend lineup in the SEC. South Carolina swept the Gators up in Columbia. We'll also be talking, of course, with Franz Beard in the second hour. Wess Moore in Little Rock, Razorback and the Western Front report. What's going on out west with Oklahoma, Arkansas, and everybody. Jacques Doucet. Jacques Doucet will check in Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, talking about the L game, the LSU spring game. What is the spring game really going to tell you? It tells you that you can score a lot of points. There's not usually a lot of defense in there, but we'll get his thoughts and insight on the LSU spring game. Hey, we're here 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Sidelines putting out about 50 hours of content per month, at least 8 to 10 a.m. Central, Monday through Saturday. www.sidelines.live. If you miss us, show's always up on the podcast, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Android, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. It's everywhere. 6 days a week talking SEC with the best guests that are out there. I think, folks, we had a really good show Saturday talking about what is happening in college athletics with NIL, the portal. I mean, they're not going away, but I think you're going to start seeing adjustments and where we are. And I think that the free market always corrects this kind of stuff. There's a feeling, I think, among a lot of people that because of the NIL, every player out there is getting paid a lot of money. They're not. Nobody is. I don't think people are going to be lining up to just dump piles of money into the laps of 17 and 18-year-olds who aren't even on campus yet. Now, it's not supposed to be a pay for play. It's supposed to be once you've accomplished something, then you start to benefit from your name, image, and likeness. Bottom line, it isn't that way so far. I'm hearing reports, and I'm not going to name the schools. I'm not going to name the schools who are doing it, but I know of one where there's a player who came in January, got about $300,000, and he's already about to skip town. There's no contract. There's no buyout. There's no workout clause. He can just take that $300,000. If I'm the booster or the boosters that gave him that money, I'm anything but happy. That's what we've got to watch out for. And I think that in college athletics, as people are thinking, well, our school, all the schools have got to get the money together. I get that. But you better be very careful on how you pay the money out, who you're paying it to, and there's got to be some teeth in those contracts. I mean, the real business world works with contracts. And then, of course, we talked about it last week, the ACC contract with ESPN. Basically, an indentured servants contract through 2036, okay? And that is a bad one. Billy, you know, I'm kind of doing the monologue here, monologue, first few minutes about NIL, the portal, and the indentured servants contract that the ACC has with ESPN through 2036. Billy, explain this to me. You're a very wise man. You've been with, IT and tech for over 30 years. Contracts are always renegotiated. You and I both know, and everybody listening on Sidelines knows that if a coach has a really good year, what's going to happen? His agent is going to stir up the rumor mill that all these other schools want that coach, and he's either going to leave, or if he stays, he gets a pay raise. Why can't I just don't understand, because the ACC and Tommy Kane is going to join us here in just a couple of minutes here in Atlanta. NC State alum, was with the ACC network for a long time in Fox Sports. He's got a great production company. Pack Production in Atlanta. I don't. This one's not registering in my noodle. Can you figure this one out for me?
Well, they may need to do something like the following. To trigger a renegotiation, there's usually like expansion language in a contract, so they may need to add 2 new members to the conference or something like that, so that there's more TV sets, more eyeballs, and that would trigger, a sit down and renegotiate it. The ACC and the SEC have media rights included in those deals, for all of the schools, unlike what Texas did in the Big 12, where they had their own media rights that they protected. And so it became, haves and have nots in the Big 12, which has been a sore spot, which is why Texas A&M left early to join the SEC. And Texas won't get that deal, nor will Oklahoma when they join the SEC here in another, 8 months or a year or whatever it's going to be.
July 24. Yeah.
Yeah. So the ACC needs to do something similar. They need to go to Notre Dame or something like that, somebody big that could shake up the number of eyeballs in such a dramatic way that those the inclusion of the media rights, is something that if you throw Notre Dame in that, there's no doubt that would trigger a new agreement with the ACC, with ESPN. So that's what they ought to do. If I'm the ACC, I go to Notre Dame and listen, you guys, in the changing landscape, you need to be in a conference so that you can not, be left out of the expanded playoff. You need to play a quality schedule. They've done all of those things in the past, and they could argue that, but could they continue to do it going forward? Maybe not, because if you're trying to prevent a second loss on your schedule to make sure you make an 18 playoff, do you schedule a quality opponent like Notre Dame, which that's a coin toss? Basketball with the RPI calculations and March Madness, they've had to figure that out for a long time, but that's a new landscape in football. The 14 playoff expanding is going to change things, and that's what's driving a lot of this conference expansion. So the ACC should get out ahead of that and be proactive. Add Notre Dame, add another, for balance. They probably should do away with the 2 different conferences the way the SEC has been encouraged to do, and just have the best records play for the ACC championship, and then that probably guarantees you a pretty high seeding in the 18 playoff. I think that's how it'll have to work.
Yeah. Well, you right now you got a 14 playoff. You're going to go to 12 in a few years.
I'm sorry, 12. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this about Notre Dame. What about the SEC? That's a wild card. Will the SEC try to get the Notre Dame to join? Well, the one thing about the SEC that's unique is the contiguous footprint. All the states are connected. Kentucky is connected to Indiana. They call that area Kentuckiana. Go up there. Notre Dame and the SEC would be a lot of fun, but I'm concerned, and I want to talk with Tommy when he gets on here. I don't want to see a Power 5 conference go by the wayside, but financially, you look at Clemson. We had Richmond Weaver on the show Friday, covers Clemson for us in the upstate, and he's doing that great documentary on the Southern Conference, the Super Conference, 100 years. And we talked about IPTAY. They bring in 35 to 40 million a year. If Clemson didn't have IPTAY, which is the oldest grassroots fundraising athletics organization in America that I know of, I don't know how they survive, Billy.
Well, they probably don't. They've been, a forerunner of what, NIL is now, right? They've gone out and gotten everybody to give what initially was $10, which was an amazing way to do it. And, in a lot of ways, you don't hear about the rogue power broker to Clemson. I'm sure they have them, but because they've got more of a democratic donor base where everybody's contributing, that helps, where, other schools, ours included, our guys get their name in the paper too much. If you're going to be a rogue booster, job number 1 is keep your name out of the paper.
Yeah.
And Clemson, you don't hear a lot of that stuff. So
no, you don't.
Have them. Every school has power brokers and guys that write big checks for $20-30 million on their own, as opposed to 100,000 alumni all giving $10 or whatever. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that helps in that regard, that they keep their dirty laundry where it should be, which is, in the washing machine and far from public view.
Yeah. And I think that the Clemson model, people wish they had it, but they get 35 million maybe from ESPN for TV rights, and the conference when they dole it out. The SEC this year for the 21-22 year, I guess that was 21-22. Yeah, they gave out 49.9 million to each of the 14 schools. Now, that's because they have that deal with CBS, which ends this year, 55 million a year to broadcast that SEC game of the week. I hate losing that CBS 2:30, 3:30 Eastern spot. That is an iconic TV spot, kind of like the Tonight Show or David Letterman. You don't want to lose it. ESPN does a lot of games. Billy, is the Saturday 2:30, 3:30 Eastern game going to be just another game on ESPN's already stacked schedule, or will they somehow be able to maintain that unique 2:30, 3:30 spot?
Well, the SEC is pretty smart, and I think that had to be part of the calculus of making that switch. I mean, they could re-up with CBS if they wanted to, but they probably signaled there's going to be a big price jump, and
Yeah.
CBS is like, they see the eyeballs that the Big Ten has, and they were kind of indifferent about the switch. In fact, they're using the same theme music, I believe, when they feature the Big Ten in a marquee game going forward. So, ESPN has a gem of a property on their hands, and I think they're savvy enough to promote it the right way. SEC will demand that. So I don't think it's going to be any less of a marquee event. Frankly, I think a change in the announcing crew would be a nice refresh. I like the CBS game, but hearing the same voices over and over and over and over again, particularly Vern Lundquist is retired now. He was great, but having some new announcers and a different way to produce the game might be a great update to it, because it's been exactly the same for a long, long time.
Yeah, and look, the guys in Birmingham at the SEC office, Greg Sankey, Herb Vincent, communications director, that they know what they're doing. That's kind of like Mission Central and James Bond, where Moneypenny was. They always get it right. Birmingham is the per capita the most influential city in college football, and 85% of the people surveyed claim to be college football fans. In my opinion, the 15% who aren't did not get the survey in the mail or email or whatever, because it's the most football-centric market. Now, in terms of size, Billy, you and I are both here in Atlanta, 6.5 million people spread out over 22 counties. I think it's close to 50%, but 50% of 6.5 million is an enormous number. Is a TV market and a media market. You just wonder how long will it be before the SEC network is pulled from Charlotte to Atlanta. And wasn't it put in Charlotte because they already had an ESPN hub there for NASCAR?
They did, yeah. And so they already built this, great studio there and had a sunk cost in that, and it, they needed to use it for other things. Why not? That made a lot of sense at the time. But yeah, they could easily, from a sphere of influence standpoint, pivot that to Atlanta. At some point, CNN vacated CNN Center downtown Atlanta by Centennial Park. There's a big studio there that could move right into it. It's got cameras and all kinds of stuff.
Well, that's the thing. In Charlotte, it looks like, from what I've seen, I haven't been up there. I'm going to have to ask my son Wilson that lives up there. They've got plenty of parking and everything. You go to downtown Atlanta, it's a different story. But CNN Center is now vacant. There's your story. Right there by Mercedes-Benz Stadium. How long will it be? I just wonder if, I know in August of 14 is when the SEC network was launched in Charlotte. I wonder how long it's going to be before we start seeing serious negotiations from the city of Atlanta to try to pull the SEC network to Atlanta. I don't want the conference headquarters. I do not want it moved out of Birmingham. I think it's centrally located, especially now with Texas and OU coming in, Billy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this CNN information is brand new. They've got a complex, their historical complex right by Georgia Tech, in that Techwood area where their original building was, and where they've got a big office building right along the interstate. And I think that they're just pulling people over there and out of the downtown CNN center. A lot of that broadcasting has moved to New York now. But yeah, I think they have a proposal with the city that wants to maybe turn that into like housing, upscale housing, convert that. It's a big atrium style building, it's from the 70s. And it could work well for upscale housing, and that may be what they plan to do. But there's a big studio there already built, ready to go. So I think headline news is still broadcast there, but that's about it.
Yeah, I can remember in the day when you would go to there. That was the busiest place in downtown Atlanta.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it was like Wall Street for the media. All right, Billy, we're going to take a break. Tommy's going to join us, but I think I wanted to get into this because it's an interesting topic. We're going to get into a lot of SEC football, a lot of baseball going on right now. LSU #1 in the country, Billy. Ole Miss 3-15. Ole Miss national champion, defending national champion. Mississippi State won it 2 years ago. Auburn took 2 out of 3. 3 games all went down to 1 run. Kind of like but much more disappointing, though, for the Atlanta Braves, Billy. 3 games, lost all 3 of them. Astros come from behind. But lots more to talk about. We'll be with you for the next hour and 45 minutes, right back after this quick.
Hey, y'all. It's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection. And they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Billy, looking at baseball, and our listeners pretty much on the Western Front, the Cardinals Nation, on the Eastern, what you call Braves country. I don't know of a. You and I talked about this yesterday, but I don't know of a professional sports franchise in any sport who does a better job of embedding into their fans, because they know they are in the heart of the most tradition-rich football fan bases in America. And they have, Florida State night, Georgia night, Alabama night, LSU night, Auburn night. They're brilliant at doing that, Billy.
Yeah.
They lost all 3 games to the Astros.
Well, I mean, there's some silver lining to it. They're getting some injured players back.
Yeah.
The guys that have been asked to step up and fill in for Michael Harris in particular have done an incredible job. Not only defense, but Pilar hit a home run yesterday that was amazing. So they're getting, they've got their depth that they need. All of that has showed up. Their pitching is getting better by the day. They've had 3 strong starting outings, with Wright and Freed in particular coming back recently from injury. So they're starting to get their starting rotation together, but they kick the ball around, which is atypical of the Braves, and it cost them 2 of those 3 games. They'll clean that up. Last year they had a similar moment where they played a sloppy game on the West Coast. I don't remember. I think it was the Padres, and they went on a tear after that.
Yeah.
But that was June, and I think they had their one closed door manager meeting of the year, which Snicker typically doesn't need to do.
Yeah.
But they had one meeting, and then they went on a tear after that and ended up winning the division on the last day from the Mets. So this year they got an early start on that, and they don't normally kick the ball around. They play airtight defense, and they've done that for decades, just like the Dodgers do. And that's the model. That's how you win, pitching and defense.
Yeah, and it's hard to find. Tommy, you go to a Braves game or two. Welcome to Sidelines. And I'm over in Atlanta, got over here Sunday night for the baptism of the granddaughter, Chandler Elizabeth, yesterday. And so here for a couple of days. And, man, we're less than a mile because I walk a lot of times. If I go up there and have a few road sodas and then you can walk back or drive, whatever. It's an incredible atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
In Atlanta. Tommy, have you ever done documentaries or been thought about doing a documentary embedding with a baseball team like the Braves for an entire season?
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to Billy talk earlier about the team and and what you guys were talking about with how they market themselves or whatever. And, they have just done a masterful job with all that. And of course, winning selves, is the key to it all, right? You got to keep winning to keep the fans coming or whatever. But just the atmosphere, what they used to have, because I've been living here for a long time, since 93, the old the old Fulton County Stadium days, and then they blew that up for the Olympics, built the new stadium, built the Olympic Park, and then turned that into Turner Field. And that was a great ballpark when it was first built, but it was a pain in the neck to get to for everybody because you had to go through downtown. And they, and the Braves did all these studies and realized that most of all their season ticket holders and those kind of people were coming from the north part of the city. So they come through all the way through downtown and the connector to try to get to a game, and during rush hour was just a nightmare. And then once you got down there, guys, there was nothing to do. You could tailgate, and that was about it. And then you just went to the ball game. I mean, there was no nightlife. There's no restaurants. 1 or 2 small ones, but nothing big. So when they moved that stadium up to Sandy Springs area where it is now, it just did a masterful job. I mean, it's just fantastic. There's so much to do. When we went to the game Friday night, my buddies and I got there like at 5 o'clock, had a nice pizza sitting outside, a couple of beers, watched all the atmosphere going on. And it's, you make a whole day out of it. But to answer your question, Rob, yes, I've always thought that would be cool. And especially with somebody like the Braves, because obviously there's always, right now, especially they're so good, they're going to be in the mix at the end of the year. They are. So there's going to be some good storylines there. But the baseball season is so long.
Yeah, it is.
If you talk about putting a documentary together for something like that, that is a tremendous amount of work to get something like that put together and done. One thing I've always wanted to do, I always wanted to take our road trip show we used to do for the ACC football and actually do a road trip show for like MLB Network and go to each city and kind of immerse ourselves into the city and the nightlife and the restaurants and where it is and what's all to do before you go to a game. And I still have that idea on the back burner. And if anybody steals that listening to the show, I'm going to sue you.
That's right. Tommy, that is a great idea. In fact, Richmond Weaver was on the show with us Friday, the upstate over in Greenville, South Carolina. And Richmond, he's actually from Smyrna. He's a Clemson grad. He covers Clemson and also UCC like you do. And they had a crew embedded. That's why I asked you this, with the Furman basketball team this past season. And I don't know about you, but I thought that was really cool. Nothing against Virginia, but Furman gets that first NCAA win since 1974. That's going to be neat to see it. And he's also doing a documentary on the 100 years of the Southern Conference. And Billy and I were talking before you joined us. I don't want to see the ACC disappear. When we talked Friday with Richmond, we know about Florida State and Clemson saying, we're doing so much for football, we need help. I think NC State, I mentioned them and absolutely believe this. They're at that 9-win. If they can start getting into 10, talk about that fan base of NC State, the alumni, the money. You've got strong engineering, which means you've got lots of money, because I know medical schools and law schools are great, but no one college on a university campus ever comes close to producing what engineers make financially.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there's definitely the engineers side of it for sure. And I mean, the NC State fan base is hungry like the wolf, not to be crazy, pun there, but they really are. Like they are, just itching to kind of get over that hump. We keep getting to the top. We get up to the top of the hill and we have a good season, and then we just have a bad season afterwards. It's like, just need to keep building and building. And but the fan base is so hungry for like anything to put their teeth into, an ACC championship or just getting to the top 10 rankings, things like that. They're there. They're passionate. They have the money. The school's got great facilities. The basketball has great facilities. I mean, they got one of the best, if not the best, arenas in all of college basketball, because it really is a professional arena. I mean, you play in that arena, and it's like playing in an NBA arena. I mean, it is. And so it's there's all the tools are there. It's just, and all the pieces are there. It's just a matter of getting the W's. And like we said about the Braves, I mean, you just got to keep winning consistently to get that. To really get you over the top.
Yeah, Billy. I agree.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I've been around Atlanta since the 70s, and, the Braves were horrible back in those days. They had a long hangover after Hank Aaron in 74 hit the 715 home run. Dusty Baker, asked to be traded away and went as a young star to the Dodgers. Now, he's from California. Maybe he wanted to go home, but they dismantled a team that was pretty good. So between 1975 and 1982, they were terrible. Literally 6,000 people or less would show up at Fulton County.
Right.
You could hear individual hecklers. I mean, I've heard the players say that on TV, that, there was individuals that they could pick out from the crowd that were heckling them. That's how quiet it was back then. And, so 82, they had a brief, bright spot where they made the playoffs, and then they went into a long dormancy again. Until 1990, when they started winning again, and they've never stopped. So what, Rob, you've observed it because you've seen Atlanta over a long period of time, as I have. They didn't used to have like a local fan base that could fill up a stadium night after night, because it's a transient town. It has been forever. People moved here from other places. The Cubs would have more fans show up than the Braves. The Mets, certain fan bases that transferred to Atlanta, they would retain their childhood affiliations, and they didn't identify as a Braves fan, but their kids do. So now you got 35-year-olds that are the children of somebody that moved here from Chicago, and they're not a Cubs fan, they're a Braves fan, because the Braves have won. Like Tommy said, winning cures everything.
Everything, Billy. Yeah.
And that's what's going on. Now you got some homegrown 35 and 40-year-olds that have been here a long time that aren't Atlanta natives, but they've lived here their whole life, even though their mom and dad might be from somewhere else. Yeah. And now we have a homegrown fan base that shows up every night. I was at the game, Tommy, too, Friday. What an incredible environment. It was a playoff game in April. It was crazy.
Right. Yeah.
With a playoff, opponent, and great weather. And they had 40,000 people out in the Battery that did not have a ticket to the game.
Right.
I mean, and that was the financial model that they were trying to aspire to. Is like, what could we do if we gave people something to do before and after the game? It would solve 80% of the traffic woes, because people come early and stick around late. And at Turner Field, as you pointed out, the games are always starting at 7:15 in the height of rush hour. Yeah, and then that's 81 games a year that are adding to the already horrible traffic in downtown Atlanta. And there's nothing to do before or after the game. You felt like, a hostage down there, and you can't get out, right. You can't leave, and then everybody wanted to leave at the same time. But on Friday night, I guarantee you, Tommy, you probably saw this too. The game was over. It was a disappointing end to it, but there was still a festive atmosphere. And a lot of the people probably stuck around 3 hours after the ball game.
Right. And then not only that,
10, I guess 10:15, and everybody probably stayed till well after midnight. And so the traffic leaving for the people that do leave is not a big deal at all.
No, we got right out. We left right after the night, then got right out. And, they also have Friday night fireworks, which is another marketing thing they do a great job of. And people stick around for an hour for that. So, Derek Schiller, the president of the Braves and stuff, he's an old buddy of mine, because he started with me way back in the day at Turner Sports when his dad, Harvey Schiller, was running Turner Sports. And Derek has done a phenomenal job with that whole organization, top to bottom. I mean, they've got great players. They got a great nightlife atmosphere there. They got, like you said, Billy, like it's not, the funny thing about the Braves is you're not going to go to a Braves game and be sitting, like I went to a game at Fenway Park one time, a playoff game, sitting in the outfield, and the guy sitting down in front of me was probably in his late 70s, and he was with his grandson. And he's like, I've had these tickets since my dad used to take me to the games, these same 2 tickets, and they kind of go through, and now he's passing it on to his grandson. You don't see that in Atlanta because, like Billy's point, I mean, you might see it occasionally, but you don't see it like you do in those teams like in the Northeast up there, where that's what they did growing up. Like their granddads and papas took them to the games. In Atlanta, it's more of the melting pot. But the thing about Atlanta is because of the TBS and the Superstation, everybody, there's a whole, I mean, there's Braves fans all up and down around the country, especially the East Coast, because everybody could watch the games growing up. Yeah. So you do have that going for you there, but they have a great following, and they, winning solves all, but it's become now a social thing to do too, which is great. And it just, it works.
It really is. Billy, I know you've got to drop off here in a second, but Jacques Doucet from WAFB Channel 9 down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year last year. Congratulations. And met you at SEC Media Days last year. This is Billy Roberts up in Atlanta and Tommy Kane in Atlanta, and I'm in Atlanta. We've been talking about the portal, NIL, the Braves, the whole package of entertainment and getting fans to stick around before, during, and after the games. Baton Rouge, that's never been a problem. I mean, you're talking – Tommy used to be with ACC Network. You went to Tiger Stadium, Tommy, didn't you?
Yeah. I had a great time down there. Went to a game. I think if I remember correctly, they were playing Florida, and it was an afternoon game, and it was like hotter than hell down there. It was just beating down hot on the field that day. But yeah, I've been down there. Quite the atmosphere.
It is incredible. And Jacques, you went to the L game. We were talking with Frank Duffy, who's on the show with us several times a week. He's an LSU grad, lives up in Atlanta, but, he's got a daughter at LSU. He's back and forth a lot and still has a place in the quarter. What happened? What did you see? What were your takeaways? Because spring games, you can only get so excited about what you see there.
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And, unlike Morgan Wallen, I made it this morning. I'm here with you guys. Been far less demand than that guy. But, it's a beautiful day in Tiger Stadium. Perfect day, not a cloud in the sky. I think Jaden Daniels really is going to be an exciting factor for LSU moving forward into the 2023 season. Certainly I think he's got some things that he needs to improve upon, and as far as pushing the ball down the field to his wide receivers and whatnot, but goes 10 out of 11 in this scrimmage. And I really think that he's got the potential to be a Heisman Trophy candidate this year. He delivers the kind of plays in terms of a runner and as a passer that really flash in highlights and really get Heisman Trophy voters' attention. And so, last year at this time when he came in, we didn't know much about him other than he had been a starter at Arizona State. He was competing for the job. You had Miles Brennan in the mix, who had kind of been the veteran presence and whatnot. And then Jaden gets the job and really doesn't relinquish it. Yeah. And so with him coming back and with Brian Kelly, a second year in the system, I mean, obviously Brian Kelly has proven to be a winner at a very high level for a long period of time, no matter where he's been. And perhaps he's never had resources and talent like he's had at LSU before. Yeah. Obviously, he's never gone up against the competition on a week-to-week basis that he has here at LSU. But I think it all plays into a very exciting season and potential moving for LSU, moving ahead. They've got some questions like any other team as far as depth at certain spots. There's no bell cow at running back. There's no Leonard Fournette or Darius Geis back there. They're going to have to do it by committee again. And John Emery, who's got a lot of talent and who has done some spectacular things, but has never been that consistent, is in academic limbo again. So that's another storyline. He didn't practice with the team at all during the spring. And so they're still tapping into that transfer portal, plugging spots. But certainly when you have a season opener like you do against Florida State and Orlando, you've got, excitement and momentum building from this point forward.
Yeah, no doubt. And Tommy, he's talking about the portal and recruiting and resources and on. And Jacques, Tommy played basketball up at NC State and was with ACC Network for a long time in Fox Sports. I gotta say this. You think what he just said about Brian Kelly in his second year, I think he's 3 games behind Nick Saban in terms of the 2 winningest active coaches in college football. When you look around and you see what's going on in the SEC, what's happening in the ACC, what is it that a school like NC State Are they looking to hold on to what they have? It's so wide open now with the portal, and this one ends April 30th. You go to practice, and that night you're watching TV. There's 2 or 3 of your guys hit the portal.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just a different world, gentlemen, and it has been for a while now, right? I mean, this portal is just it's a whole, forget recruiting. I mean, recruiting is still important, but it ain't like it is now to go to try to get in this portal and recruit kids in and out of this portal. And, we've talked about this a lot, Rob, on the show. I think that, a couple of coaches that I still know that are in the business or whatever, they spend most of their time recruiting their kids that are already on the team and trying to keep them there and keep them happy and trying not to say, hey, don't leave. This is what we got for you. So it's just a different world when it comes to that. But the portal is, think about the coaching too. You're trying to build a chemistry with your team. Like, we talked about this too.
Tommy, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. I want to come back. I want to elaborate on that. And I want to get Jacques' thoughts on that, because Brian Kelly just in year 2 has to do better than 10 wins or the fans are going to go, what's happening? We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a 4th-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
All right, back here. Tommy, if you could, I know you got a few more minutes before you've got to go. Talk about that, the chemistry and how hard. I can't imagine as a coach what it's like.
Right. I mean, every year, I think, let's go back before the portal. Like, you would build kids into your program. You're the pieces you're going to have every year. The pieces that are coming in as freshmen. What you're going to develop as far as your sophomores and juniors and the people that do, and what you can build your offense on and what your defenses come on. I can't imagine being the coaches in those rooms knowing, okay, well, we've lost these 4 guys on defense. We've got 6 guys coming in from the transfer portal that we've seen play, but we've never coached. Now we got to bring them in, try to fit them in, and build that chemistry amongst the players and the team. Like, that to me is just a huge undertaking. And like, no matter how good the players are that are coming in and how great they are, you still got to build team chemistry. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to win football games or basketball games if you don't have chemistry in your team and everybody's pulling for each other and they're willing to lay their life on the line, so to speak, in the middle of a football game for their player, for their saying. So I just think that that's a monumental task for coaches, and I'm glad I'm not in the coaching ranks. I can just tell you that much.
Jacques, you talked about John Embry, and I remember when I was in college. I mean, we were sweating bullets, man. About who was going to be academically eligible back in those days. Tommy, Jacques, y'all remember this? Prop 48. Man, it was scary, and you almost never hear about that anymore. But you mentioned that with John Embry, and I'm not trying to go after him, but elaborate on that, because he's got every resource in the world at his disposal for academic advancement.
Yeah, that can be a sensitive topic, but I had a former LSU player who played in recent years tell me, how hard it is to be academically ineligible? I mean, do you know how hard that is? And so, like, to your point, I think that they have, Nick Saban, when he was hired over 2 decades ago, no hire has ever been more important in the history of LSU athletics than Nick Saban in terms of what he did and the success LSU has enjoyed over the last 2 decades because of him. But one of the things that he banged his fist on the table about was a Cox Academic Center for student athletes.
Yeah.
And that thing is open around the clock with tutors and whatnot. And so, John, like all of us, has challenges and things that he's been trying to overcome, but he was academically ineligible for the entire 2021 season. And then he was ineligible for the first 2 games of last year. And so, there's also an old saying, you can, lead a horse to water, you can shove the horse's head underwater, you can't make it drink. And so You just kind of wonder, what's happening there. And real quick, to Tommy's point too about this transfer portal and covering the LSU women's basketball team, right, who just won a national title, and Kim Mulkey proven to be one of the greatest coaches in the history of collegiate athletics. It's like, well, these are the rules of engagement, right? And so some people complain about it after the fact. Oh, she just got a bunch of new players. She plucked Angel Reese. She plucked the Deja Williams. She plucked Jasmine Carson, who couldn't miss in the first half there. But it's like, well, if you don't do it, somebody else will, and you'd be complaining that you didn't catch up with the times. Right. And so that's look, I like, now you've got senior day where you're honoring seniors who only played there 1 year, which is kind of like, where's the emotional investment with the fans too, right? Like, we didn't grow. We didn't have a relationship with you for 3-4 years. We only saw you for 1, but that's where we are now. It's free agency. It's getting paid, right? I mean, the WNBA and the NBA salaries are so off, right? I mean, Tyrus Thomas here was a 4th pick in the NBA draft, $5 million. Simone Augustus, number 1 pick, $50,000 was her salary way back, And so Angel Reese is saying, I'm staying right here in Baton Rouge. I got NIL deals rolling in left and right. I don't need to go pro. And so I even heard some guys say it's easier for the girls to get money than it is for us, because I guess basketball, you got more limited numbers. Football, you got 100 guys on a team. So it really is a new era, and it really is when you're a coach, and like Tommy said, where you're preaching, it's about the team and it's about all of us, and no one is more important than the other. Then this NIL and transfer portal really kind of goes to the me, I, look at me, selfies, look at me and my deal. So
but that's the world that we live in now, because of like the cell phone and everything else, and all and just been publicizing yourself. Like, and I agree with you, Jacques. Like, I mean, I don't blame the coaches for taking the advantage of the system the way it is. You got to play by the rules, and they are. So they'll get all the transfers they can get in to make their team better. And they're playing by the rules. It's not like they're cheating. But I just think, and we've talked about this at length, Rob, like, I just think that the transfer portal is just tearing up college sports. It's just making it, again, going back to growing up like in North Carolina and watching ACC basketball for so many years during the heydays of this, 80s and 90s, it was because you knew the player that came in as a freshman, and you knew he was coming back every year for 2 or 3 years at least, right? And you had an emotional connection to that player, and you were like, you would go get his poster or his jersey or something. You would like be a Bobby Hurley fan if you were Duke, or you'd be a Rodney Monroe fan, NC State, or whatever. You would be like, and you a Christian Laettner, you followed those guys. And now that's just gone for the most part. Like, you just, every time you pick up the roster at the beginning of the year, you're like, who are these guys? Where'd they come from? Yeah. And now they're just wearing the name on the jersey as the NC State is more important than the name on the back as, Rob Browne or whatever, like, because you have no connection to that guy. Yeah. So it's just, I think that to me is, I mean, obviously people still pull for the schools and want their schools to win, but the emotional connection and the personal feeling of like those players is just gone, and it's happening all over the place. And I think it's bad for college sports. Yeah. We got to be careful. Tommy, I know you've got to get on to another appearance, but let people know you've got a great production company. I love the name of it. Talk about what you're doing. And that idea that you came up with earlier in the show, I think that is one of the best. That might be the best idea I've heard in a decade about the embed thing. Tell Jacques, well, I mean, it's already on the show. So, well, I'm just hoping you don't have a lot of viewers today, Rob. That's why I'm hoping to steal my ideas. I got a production company here in Atlanta. We do corporate video production, anything really, commercials, whatever. PAC 30 Productions, PACK 30 Productions, and been doing it since after I left Fox in 2008. Been running my own business and doing that, and doing the talent work when I can. And it's been a good run. But yeah, you can find it on the internet, PAC 30 Productions, and you can follow me on Instagram at Tommy Kane's-talent. So well, Tommy, you bet. I'm going to put you on a committee to save the ACC, but I'm just going to say this. I don't want to see a conference like that. Basketball alone will always hold their spot at Longshank's table, at the head of the table, because what it's done to create the brand of college basketball. Even if you're not an ACC, Jacques, you got to admit, you're an LSU guy. I'm an Auburn man. He's NC State. He played up there, basketball, walked on the American dream. But that national championship game in 1983 and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson in 79 with Dick Enberg, and this is it.
the March Madness, that right there, always to me, I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that, Tommy. And every time you're on here, you're so good at bringing back passion about what you talk about. And but I love it. Pack Productions. We got to save the ACC from itself, and they need some smart people involved. And hopefully you'll be on that committee. I hate committees, but you'll get stuff done.
I hate committees because there's more meetings and everything else. I just can't do it. Hey, Jacques, good meeting you, buddy. Rob, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you too. And sorry, LSU plucked Tommy Tanks from NC State, who hit 27 home runs last year for you guys, right? Baseball team, he's having great success, and then he comes to LSU. Just another example.
How's he doing down there right now?
Pretty well. He got injured yesterday and left the game for whatever reason, but he's been smashing it. So
yeah, he can bomb the ball, and it was unbelievable watching what he did last year. Literally, it was like every game there was 2 home runs every game, and he was just unbelievable. And then he goes and transfers, and we're like, it's. Yeah. I mean, as a coach, like how demoralizing is that too, as a coach, to get this kid in there and recruit him for so many years or whatever it took to get him in there. And then he has a phenomenal season and he's loved and he's got NIL deals or whatever. And he just gets up and goes somewhere else. Like it's just, like I said, I'm glad I'm not in coaching. I'll just put it that way.
That's right.
You guys take care. Have a good day.
You too, Tommy. Thanks so much. Jacques, and you talked about LSU goes to Swayze Field, there in Oxford. That's about an hour south of us in Memphis. God, LSU is powerful. I mean, we have a lot of LSU fans. We have 2 members of our hunting club up in Parkin, Arkansas, 30 minutes from Memphis, from Lake Charles. We eat really well over there. I'll just say that. People call it, Frank Duffy had to be kind of a smart aleck and call it fish stew, Cuvion. I mean, they don't catch crappie or crappie or white perch down in Lake Charles. They catch sockeye. And one of our members, Tanner, his mother's family, they have Stein home and garden stores all over the state. They're just Quentin, his uncle, I worked with for years. That LSU fan base is incredible. It doesn't matter where they go, but you just mentioned you pull away NC State's home run king, but you got a coach that's been there, 2 years, came from Arizona. Let's talk about that baseball program as well.
Well, Jay Johnson, in his second year after leaving Arizona, has really attacked that transfer portal, and he inherited a lot of talent too. Paul Maneri did a great job recruiting the Dylan Cruzes, the Trey Morgans of the world. Even a guy like Hayden Travinsky, who yesterday was the hero, gets pinch hit there in the 9th inning with 2 outs and hits a 3-run homer to win the game as his team was down by 2. But the expectations for LSU baseball are what they are, and especially with this year's team, who was number 1 across the board in the preseason, expected to win the national title. They lost a midweek game last week to the Raging Cajuns, an hour down the road, came into town and beat LSU, but LSU goes to Ole Miss and sweeps. Yeah, obviously Ole Miss is having a hard time following up their national championship team of a year ago. I think they're now 3-15 in the SEC. Yeah. Mike Bianco, so said, was on the hot seat. I think there was even some beat writers around the area there that said if they wouldn't have made the tournament, he might have been let go last year. And he wins a national title. I mean, that's an ESPN 30 for 30 right there. But yes. I mean, LSU, their schedule has really been tough, and they haven't lost an SEC series. They played the likes of Tennessee and Arkansas, and really the back half of LSU's schedule, I think, lightens up. I mean, they got a chance to really feast here and fatten up their SEC record and also get a national seed, be a top 8 national seed, and be playing games in the box to go to Omaha. They've got some questions about their pitching, but this past weekend it was good. Their number 2 and number 3 starters really stepped up. Paul Skeens on Friday has been basically untouchable. He's had a couple of dips here and there, but overall he's been amazing. So, we're kind of hitting that stretch run now where we're in late April, about to go into May. The excitement of the SEC tournament in Hoover, a great event I always like going to, and all those different things are heading our way. Kids about to get out of school for the summer. It's a special time of year coming up.
It really is. And, we'll have Jimmy Ott on here a good bit, and Frank Duffy talking LSU. Want to get you on more and more. You are really good. I want to say something, and I think it needs to be said more. First off, thank you for doing what you do, because I was a reporter for a couple of years when I got out of college for Channel 3 in Columbus, Georgia. And I got into the investment business, but I've always been doing radio shows on the side, and now we've got our own show. what you do is so underappreciated and undervalued by the average fan. A typical Saturday morning, if LSU's got a football game, you're in there at 5:30, or you're up at 5 in the morning. You're in there getting ready, and you get, 4.5, 5 minutes. You may get longer. And if there's some big breaking news story, I know what that's like. It's all gone. Remember the days when you bought Satellite Time, sponsored by, Gajan's crawfish boil, paying for this satellite window, and you're like going, we are live here in the swamp. Jacques Doucet, Channel 9, got a dead air. I know what that's like. But without the local media, the beat writers, the beat reporters, the sports anchors, you didn't just on day one on your job, they didn't say, Jacques, yeah, you're going to be an anchor. You had to earn it. You worked it. I don't like this trend, and it's not new, but the coaches ignoring the local media. Like Gary Harris, Channel 23 in Tuscaloosa, says, we don't even get to go to practice. I mean, once a week they send a video out. It's scripted and it's edited. Do you get to go to practice? And I know you're the kind of guy that if someone tells you something off the record, it stays off the record.
Yeah. Well, and look, I know a lot of people here are angry at Nick Saban still to this day, but I thought that was really underhanded. You remember when he first got the job and he joked about, I guess I could say the word coonasses, and some guy put it out, and I think it was a lot of fake outrage here in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
coonass, that's derogatory. Yeah. We use it in jokes all the time.
Exactly.
But that to me was underhanded. He was having a conversation off the record and somebody put it out. There are great new things about modern, like this right here that we're doing. We couldn't have done this, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. This kind of thing, these kind of, broadcasts, you needed a satellite, you needed all this different stuff. And so I think more, Rob, now you're reporting in real time, right? I mean, you have these things which are more addictive than crack, although I've never taken crack. But anyway, it's hard to put these down, right? I mean, things happen in front of you. You can video them. You can send them out. And when you've got LSU fans, I mean, whether it's the football team getting off the bus or whatever, they'll eat it up. And so you're reporting in time and Twitter all the time. I'm not a hot take guy. I'm not an argument guy. I think that's a waste of time on social media. I don't think people follow me or other people for arguments. I think it's funny they call it social media. To me, it's more confrontational media. People aren't social. That's not being social. What's going on a lot on social media. But I mean, last year, and I'm not criticizing Coach Kelly, but last year he let us see a lot of stuff in the spring. I mean, we stayed a couple of times the entire practice. Wow. I told him one time, I said, we got more good video in the last 10 minutes than I got in the previous 10 years. I got guys competing, going up for passes, 11 on 11 action. This spring, Ron, it was Rob, it was back to 10, 15 minutes of guys hitting sleds and not much, and then you're out. And so, I think even the spring game here, as vanilla as that is, I hear about some coaches are like, I don't want to put anything out there for opposing coaches to see, whether it's a handoff off right tackle or whatever. So I think that's kind of Charles Handegraaff, a great here in town. One of his favorite quotes. He said, "Football coaches are more paranoid than drug dealers." Yeah, and I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I've always said football coaches are more paranoid than the Russians. And they, because you think about it, and we're going to go to a quick break and just come back for a couple of more minutes. And I want people to find out how they can follow you. But I agree with you. A lot of it's confrontational in media. People will say things in social media just to get clicks, clickbait, whatever they want to call it. But I think it's critical that you have strong relationships with the local media, because, now you may be in Baton Rouge, but you're everywhere. I mean, this show's everywhere. It's going to be bounced out on podcasts, retweeted, and Instagram, YouTube. So all that's changed. I think it gets down to who they can trust, Jacques. You didn't win Sportscaster of the Year because you were lucky. I mean, you worked for it. So we come back just a couple of more minutes. Got a couple of quick questions on LSU, and we'll be out of here. But God love the local reporters, because without them, you got only national people. And as Buddy Martin says, what's an expert? Someone who's not from there that has an opinion. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne, just a couple of more minutes with Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, covers LSU. And, of course, you cover the high school and everything down there. That's another thing. When people want to know about a high school kid, what they typically find out now in recruiting, Jacques, is how they do at a 7-on-7 camp. You go to Denham Springs, you go to Napoleonville, you go to East St. John Reserve and all. I know those schools. And my great-great-grandfather used to live in Thibodaux, or as the rednecks call it, Thibodux. I love that culture. And Jacques, I always tell people, 4 weeks before school started, my dad was going to LSU as an invited preferred walk-on to be a field group. And then a spot opened up in the College of Architecture at Auburn, and he ended up going to Auburn instead of LSU. But as somebody that's grown up listening to LSU football on WWL in New Orleans at 870, I'm an Auburn grad, but you need programs like LSU. You need programs like Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, and now Ole Miss and Mississippi State are really cranking it up. Where do you see things going, Texas and OU coming in the league? Are you excited about it? Because I know y'all recruit heavily. I bet you could take a team from Houston on I-10 to the Louisiana border of all-time great LSU players against the LSU all-time and have a hell of an all-star game.
No doubt about it. LSU and Texas, the Longhorns, for being, what they are and being so close, they have not played. I mean, they played in 2019, obviously that early season game. And then before that, I think it was the Cotton Bowl at the end of the 2002 season. Yeah. Roy Williams and Phil Sims' kid there Chris was the quarterback. Yep. And I think before that, I think it had been 45, 50 years. Yeah. So getting LSU and Texas on the field football wise on a regular basis, everyone's going to be a winner. I mean, TV, money, restaurants, bars, all that stuff. And then Oklahoma as well. I mean, those are two blue bloods, great history, LSU and Oklahoma. I can probably say that there's some women's coaches out there who are not thrilled about Oklahoma joining the league when their softball team has been Ivan Drago, basically just, smashing people left and right. And their gymnastics team just won a national title. I don't know what's up in the water there and up in Norman, Oklahoma with women up there, but Jesus, between the softball and gymnastics, they're dynasties. And obviously football is not too shabby either. So, but that's going to be very interesting to see how that all goes and the scheduling and how they're going to decide an SEC champion and all that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We got to get you back on here again very soon. I really appreciate you taking time to join us. And I know LSU can't wait to return the hospitality to Texas for that locker room.
Well, they were supposed to come here. They were supposed to come here in 20, and then COVID, killed that. So, I don't know when it's going to be, but they stuck the LSU band up in the, with the pigeons near the moon. And then, I think, Tommy Moffitt and some of these people on the LSU staff, they said, we've never had a longer walk from our bus to the stadium. And the fans were like right there, could reach out and touch us, the Longhorn fans. So that was they weren't happy.
It was fun. But how do people keep up with you? And we'll let you go. And again, do it again soon. Thank you.
At Jacques Doucet, like my name is spelled here on Twitter, WAFB.com, Facebook, all those different things. You can find me.
Okay. Great job as always. Thanks so much.
Anytime. Love to do it.
Okay, we'll do it. All right, we're going to bring in Franz Beard right now. Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com down in Gainesville, Florida. And Franz, you've always got a lot to talk about, your daily thoughts, your final pithy thoughts, but you do some fantastic writing. And bottom line, Franz, are you there?
I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just can't see you right now.
I don't know why.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can't get that worked out. But that was, Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge. And growing up in Macomb, Mississippi, you probably watched Channel 9 as a lad. And I love that. I love talking to the local reporters, whether they're beat writers for the newspapers, the websites, whatever, but also for TV and radio, because the boots on the ground. You are embedded into the Florida program. And that is so important. You and Buddy Martin. And then we have Ben Troop on the show with us. Again, you know Florida, but you also know Florida relative to Miami and Florida State and the rest of the SEC and college football nationally. And we had a discussion earlier in the show about the ACC and that contract, which is just god-awful, through 2036, kind of an indentured servants contract, but it pays them so much less. How, Franz, there you are. Franz, how can the ACC, and I'm asking you this because you're very smart, and you've lived up there in North Carolina in the ACC country, and Florida's ACC country, if you're a Florida State fan, it is. Why can't they renegotiate that contract, Franz? It is so bad, and it's like every year, it's like there's a sign on the back of them, kick me in the ass.
Well, when they signed it, they thought, well, here's what they did. They decided that they'd go long-term for a lesser amount to have a higher amount so that it would make it almost impossible for anybody to leave. This was their catch-22 was, yeah, you're going to take a lesser amount of money. And this is from the genius of John Swofford, who I think had too many shots blocked off his head back in the day. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but Swofford and Jim Delaney were teammates. And Swofford's older brother is a guy who wrote a song. I don't know if you remember a song called "Good Morning Sunshine" by Oliver back in the day in the 70s. Good morning, sunshine.
I did not know that.
That's John Swofford's older brother.
Okay.
But what they did was they went with a lengthy contract with a higher buyout than a shorter contract with more money, thinking that we'll hold the league together. And they have held the league together, but, there's that old saying, at what price have they done it?
Yeah.
And, of course, they made it ironclad because to leave the ACC would cost you right around $200 million. And so nobody's going to leave.
Stop the presses here. Okay. The exit fee for Texas and OU, I know when they originally announced in July of 21 at SEC Media Days in Hoover that they were, quote, seeking membership in the SEC. The first thing I told everybody around me was they've already got it done. They wouldn't have announced it if it was up for debate.
Oh,
but it was an $80 million exit fee at that time for them if they were to leave the Big 12. Okay. So tell me that again about 200 million. Let's go back over that because that went over my head like a Tomahawk missile.
Well, this is why it's ironclad, and that's why nobody will leave. Florida State is saying, well, look, if we go to the SEC and we're making $90 million a year, we can pay off that, we can negotiate that and pay it off, in chunks.
Yeah.
It's really, really convoluted. And they did this because they wanted to hold the league together and they wanted to keep Notre Dame in the fold. They wanted to keep Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They've got this agreement with Notre Dame that Notre Dame plays 5 ACC games a year in football. and is a member in all the other sports. And Notre Dame only takes like $5 million a year.
Okay.
That is all they get out of the big ACC pie is like $5 million a year. So they were looking at this and saying, look at what we got. We got Notre Dame, and we can hold the league together. And so everybody will be happy. Nobody could foresee when they did this an era when suddenly the Big Ten and, well, let's put it this way, the Big Ten plus 6, which is about to become the Big Ten plus 10, but, I mean, goodness, even simpleton like me can do the math and figure out that there are more than 10 teams in the Big Ten. But here's the deal: is nobody could foresee a time when the Big Ten and the SEC were going to make this much money, because the SEC, as it would stand right now, just with Texas and Oklahoma, and if they don't renegotiate the deal, which will happen, it would be at about $75 million a year. Okay. That deal is going to be renegotiated, and it's going to be about $90 million, maybe even more than that, a year to every SEC school. Nobody can foresee that. Now, all of a sudden, Florida State is saying, "Oh, wait a second. When we agreed to this, we weren't agreeing to it with Florida making $90 million." Well, guess what? They're stuck. Their deal. They'll finally get to the $45 million threshold in the 2027-28 year. Okay. In 2027-28, I would imagine the SEC teams will each be making $100 million, because this contract that is with ESPN is going to be so valuable, because here's the deal. The Big Ten, and its infinite wisdom, and I use that term loosely, wisdom. Wisdom is for the wise, and I don't know if they have any. It's like the old joke about why Jesus wasn't born in Athens, because God couldn't find 3 wise men and a virgin. But at any rate, here, nobody can foresee this amount of money coming to the SEC, and now you've got this kind of money coming. I don't know what Vanderbilt's going to do. Probably hire a new athletic director for diversity.
Yeah. Well, Franz, let me ask you this. You go back to Vanderbilt. Okay. When I first got into the bond business, investment business, was May of 91. And I started off selling a lot of bonds to Vanderbilt University, the medical center. Back then, in the early 90s, their endowment was $3.2 billion. God only knows what it is now. They've got a lot of money, but you've also got Eugene V. Krabs, Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob, one of the cheapest men. They're cheap when it comes. Supposedly, they're spending $300 million on athletics facilities upgrades. I'll believe it when I see it, okay? Because Dudley Field, I've seen better high school stadiums. I mean, it's not impressive, but they've got a big sponsor now, First Bank. First Bank is a sponsor of Vanderbilt's football stadium now. There's a lot of money in Nashville, but you've also got the same problem in Nashville. I say problem, but you've got huge alumni contingents. Obviously, Tennessee's everywhere. Then you got Auburn and Alabama and Kentucky everywhere. Okay, and it's one of those cities. They got to get it right. But you're right. They better, and their athletic department, Franz, is run by the intramural department, correct? So they're doing it, but they got it right. Look, the women won another bowling championship, national championship.
Oh, I know they're brilliant in bowling.
They are. Here's your 3. They have 3 now. I mean, there's three national championships in bowling, but football wise.
Yeah, well, they're kind of, they haven't You got to remember something. Vanderbilt was an absolute stud muffin school back in the 1920s. You know,
in the 50s, till the 50s, really, weren't they?
No, not really. You know, they were good in the 50s, but their glory days were before the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, Vanderbilt's endowment is $10 billion.
Wow. It's gone up a little.
Florida's endowment is around $3 billion. But I'll tell you this will blow your mind. The University of Florida is sitting on about $2 billion in just straight cash right now.
Florida's sitting on about $2 billion in cash.
Yeah.
Holy shnikes, as Chris Farley said in the movie Tommy Boy. $2 billion in cash.
Yeah. Florida is in a situation where it was 65,000 students and they can do just about anything they want to do. We have, you know, this thing called the American Association of Universities.
Wow.
And you got Vanderbilt, you got Florida, you got Missouri, and you got Texas A&M, and now you're about to add Texas in there. So we'll have 5 schools that are members of that prestigious organization. All the others, you know, like Georgia and South Carolina and so forth like that are wannabes. Florida's got an interesting situation, though. You know, you got a state that's growing at the rate of about 100,000 people a month. Yeah. You know, we're already at 22 million plus, about to become 23 million. Texas is growing. Texas has 33 million people and growing at a rate a little less than Florida, but it's you know, it's pretty substantial anyway. All you know, even Georgia's growing like a weed too. All the schools, all the states in the South are growing, and this is what. Let me get to where my point. I know I'm rambling a little bit.
No, this is interesting stuff.
Here's the thing that's happening. You have a great population shift to the southeast, eastern United States, and what you've got coming is a growing television audience. Not to mention the fact that, okay, Fox gets the first opportunity for the Big Ten. That's in that contract. But here's the thing. Fox is going to put the best game on at noon.
Yep.
Which means that the second best game will go to CBS at 3:30. Now you're going to put your second best game in the Big Ten +6, +10, whatever they wind up with. And your second best game in the Big Ten is not going to have a chance against the SEC.
Well, we're going to take a break, and we come back. They call it Big Noon, Big Noon and the Big Ten on Fox Sports. That's their marquee game, and it's been that way for a long time. But the 3:30 Eastern CBS spot is iconic for the SEC. Now that's going to be relegated to second tier status. That's wild. We're going to talk more with Franz Beard, Rob Browne, right after this.
And Done, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back with perhaps the world's most interesting man, along with Frank Duffy. You know what Buddy always says? When I come back, I want to be Frank Duffy. But Franz Beard's life is pretty cool too. But Franz, here's a trivia question. Of the SEC schools, there's only one school in the SEC all time that has a winning record against Texas in football. You're not going to believe who it is, but I bet you'll know it because you're Franz Beard.
I'm going to guess it's Vanderbilt.
Yep, I knew it. It's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt leads the record all time against Texas, 8 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie.
Back in the day when Dan McGugin was the head coach. Dan McGugin, if you can look it up, but Dan McGugin was the guy that everybody wanted to be. He is why Tennessee went out and hired Colonel Bob Neal, and he was just a colonel when he was hired.
Yeah.
It's why Alabama hired the people that it did, Wallace Wade and then Frank Thomas. Of course, when Frank Thomas left, they ended up with a guy named Ears Whitworth at one point in time.
He was at Vanderbilt?
Ears Whitworth. Well, no, Ears Whitworth was at Alabama.
JB Ears Whitworth. Yes.
Yeah, and Ears Whitworth is the guy that coached Bart Starr into, I think, like 2 career touchdown passes and 19 interceptions. He became a pretty good player, though, under Vince Lombardi, you got to admit, for a 17th round draft pick. But, getting back to it, the TV is going to be the interesting thing because the SEC's best game is going to be at 3:30.
Yeah.
The Big Ten's second game is going to be at 3:30.
Yeah.
And what you're going to wind up with is nobody I don't care. Nobody watches the noon game, period. Yeah. Now, why Fox insisted on the noon game? Because they were in control of this entire deal.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they insisted on the noon game. It's mind-boggling. Maybe they think that's maybe what they're thinking is they'll get such a good game at noon that everybody will turn their TV dial there and stay with them. Well, here's the deal. Given the choice between Rutgers and Northwestern, the Chicago Institute of Wokeism, or the SEC, which you may find, yes, it may be Mississippi State and say South Carolina, but Mississippi State and South Carolina has appeal to it.
Yeah.
And the block of fans in the South are going to stick with the Southern games.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that the big gamble by Fox and CBS and whoever the hell else they have. It's a conglomeration of networks, and it's a convoluted plan that I don't see really succeeding. But it's what they got, and they got the money for it. So, more power to them.
Yeah.
But here's your reality. Yeah. The South will stay as a block, and it's a growing block in population.
Yeah.
And you also have these people up north who do not want to watch Rutgers. No matter who they play, they don't want. If Rutgers is in the game, they're going to say, I don't have to watch this. It's kind of like when there's a football game with Vanderbilt in it. Nobody's going to watch that. I don't care if it is Alabama. everybody figures, well, Alabama, it's going to be 88-0.
Yeah.
You know, if it's LSU, they say LSU Vanderbilt, it's going to be 88-0. You know, Clark Lee, you know, I give him credit for being a brave soul, because to take the Vanderbilt job, you got to be a brave soul. But it is Vanderbilt, you know, and Vanderbilt is of this notion that you can win with Boy Scouts, and you cannot.
That's right.
You win with psychopaths in the SEC.
Yeah.
And your hope is you hire on these psychopaths, and you hope you transform them into gentlemen who can function in the real world.
Correct.
You don't always do that, as is proved by Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you don't win with Boy Scouts. You occasionally get one like Tim Tebow, and you put him in with a bunch of psychopaths, and you win with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Friends, I would be remiss. I was corrected by the rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis. By the way, went and did the workout last Thursday. It's at 1835 Union Avenue, Union and McLean in Midtown Memphis. You can join now. You got to do it. It is 45 minutes, which is the length of a prize fight, 15 3-minute rounds of calisthenics, weights, and punching. The blow to the head that made me think about it, South Carolina has a winning record, 1-0 against Texas. They played in 1957, and South Carolina won 27-21. So, but
this is why Texas hired Darrell Royal, who, believe it or not, was the head coach at Mississippi State.
Yeah, yeah, and you think about that, Franz. Frank Broyles was at Missouri in 1957, and he moved from Missouri to Arkansas. They paid him, instead of $10,000 a year, he got $15,000 a year, and which begs me to go back in time to 1922, the last time a coach has ever left Auburn for another job. None of us were around back then. But Iron Mike Donahue, who was a little Irishman who spoke Gaelic and broken English, he won 3 national championships at Auburn in 99 games, had multiple seasons where they didn't give up a point. He left Auburn in 1922 for LSU. They raised his salary from $5,000 to $10,000 a year. He didn't have a lot of success there as a football coach, but you know what? They named a tiger after him, Mike the Tiger. Interesting.
Well, you know, there's a bit of trivia that will hang with me for the rest of my days.
That's right. Franz, I will say this too. You're brilliant in pointing that out about that Big Ten contract. We had Richmond Weaver on with us, who covers Clemson, the ACC, and he's doing a incredible documentary he's been working on now, 2.5 years into it. SoCon, the Southern Conference, the Super Conference, 100 years. Go back to 1921. There were 23 members of what was then the Southern Conference, from Virginia all the way down into Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. That's going to be an incredible story to watch. But he mentioned that the Big Ten schools are all about to get around $100 million a year. We know the SEC schools for the 21-22 year recently were given $49.9 million apiece. Now, that's because they've only got a $55 million a year deal with CBS. That's about to go to $300 million plus with Disney.
Well, you got to remember something too. They had $56 million the year before, but they dropped it down, and it was because everybody took the lesser amount because they're paying for the buyouts for Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, okay. Friends, nobody has pointed that out. I did not. Let's do that. Okay, so $49.9 million. So they amortize that over the 14 plus the conference office. Explain that to people in places like Olathe, Kansas that are listening.
No, obviously everybody took a lesser amount of money. You know, it's $49 million to help with the buyout of that Texas and Oklahoma needed, because they want the league. Because here's the deal. When you get them into the SEC, what happens then? Okay, now you get a new renegotiated contract. The $7 million is pittance compared to what's going to come back to them. And everybody knows this. So They were at 56 million. They'll be back this year, probably about 58, I think, when it's all set. They'll be announcing that in Destin, but I think it'll wind up to be about 58 or maybe 59. And the new contract, see, you have to tear up the new contract because under the old contract, it was going to be a 15-way split where, okay, you had $300 million a year. And so everybody got an additional $20 million, which ends up being a net of 17, since you had $3 million from every school got $3 million from the CBS contract. So it was going to be a net of $17 million over what you had.
Okay.
So that would put everybody right about $76 million right there. Now, then you renegotiate, and everybody is saying that the renegotiation is going to be worth about $15 million, maybe $20 million per year per school, because the contract is going to be such, because you're bringing in Texas, and Texas has, let me put Texas in perspective for you. Okay. The endowment at the University of Texas is $42 billion with a B dollars. Okay. $42 billion. Now let me put that in better perspective. Texas A&M, which has the only people that have more money than the Aggies are God and the Longhorns. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Texas A&M's endowment is $18.25 billion.
Okay.
Okay. You could take Ohio State, Minnesota, Penn State, Michigan State, Michigan, Purdue, Indiana, and Illinois, and add it all together, and you wouldn't have what Texas has in terms of endowment.
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty good.
Franz, that number on Texas is incredible. And I think about that, the endowments. Florida's sitting on $2 billion in cash right now.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the SEC schools, if you go back in the late 90s, they were getting 80% or more of their annual budget, the appropriations, from their respective state legislatures. Because of proration and a number of other things that happened, the big deal in the early 2000s, building the endowments. Auburn and Alabama are both over $1 billion, but that's nothing compared to some of these other schools because they didn't have to do it. But you've got so many more schools competing. Their alumni, their fans, their boosters are in the state legislature. It's a different story right now. University of Virginia, 5 years ago, their motto was state located, privately funded. They get less than 5% of their money from the federal government or from the state legislature. What I wonder is this rule coming out saying, if you're receiving federal funds, then you can't deny Leah Thomas. You can't say he can't be on your swim team. Okay. Not going to get too graphic, but I'm just saying that who pays those federal tax dollars? We the who? We the people. That's right. We the people. So I'm waiting for that lawsuit to come about and say, wait a second, you're telling us we can't do this or that if we take any federal money? Well, what do you think the federal money is? It's we the people. It's ours. Yeah. So watch out. We're going down an interesting road here. By the way, without being graphic, those memes that you sent me were absolutely hysterical. But I'll tell you right now, what we've absolutely got to do, and we've absolutely got to do this, is we've got to be very careful that we don't ruin women's sports.
Yeah,
we cannot allow this to happen. I mean, it's shocking. And all I hear are crickets. Jiminy Cricket would be proud of the feminists in America today because nobody You know who's fighting? The only senator I know of is Tommy Tuberville. You know, that somebody, where is everybody? You know, evil flourishes while good people
got Tommy Tuberville and you got Josh Hawley and Senator Tom Cotton.
Yeah.
And I don't know too many others. I think Marco is starting to lean that way. And I think Rick Scott will too. But you look at this, you know, I'm dismayed by this. And I think that Riley Gaines has the right idea, which is, okay, we have men's sports, we have women's sports, and then we have an open division, you know, for sports.
Yeah.
The problem that you're going to run into with that, and I'm not trying to defend what the federal government's doing. I'm just telling you foreseeing what the problem is going to be on there.
Yeah.
Is that they're going to say there's not enough trans athletes to have a division and to have competition. You can, I mean, goodness, you could go to Texas Tech and if he were still alive, have a volleyball team and Spike Dykes could be the head coach.
Yeah.
I don't know if that might have gone right over people's heads, but it's actually pretty humorous when you think about it.
Yeah. And you saw that volleyball player, and she was hit in the face by a man who was playing on the girls' team and severely injured. Golly, I mean, I'm not some big brute, but my wife says when I reach over and give her a hug and grab her by the neck, it almost pulls her head off. And I'm not some,
You're just no cowhand from the Rio Grande.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not 6'5", 280 pounds. You know, it was real cute for Spits and Giggles a couple of years ago when they had the girl field goal kicker for Vanderbilt. But Franz, let me just throw this scenario at you. What if they'd have done a fake field goal against, well, let's say Alabama, and they went around right in, and some 6'5", 280-pound defensive end who runs a 4.75 40 meets her in the open field.
Yeah,
I mean,
it'd be kind of disastrous.
Yeah, but then does that we would have had congressional hearings about football is too rough, and we don't think there's not stuff going on, folks, about this. Go back to 1906, though, pivotal moment in the history of college football. 19 football players died on the field in 1906. The Georgia legislature convened a special session, and the governor and everybody was in there ready to get rid of college football. Only the impassioned plea of the Georgia football player who died on the field kept the game alive. Shortly after that, Teddy Roosevelt helped to found the NCAA. Right back in a moment.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
You know, friends, it's just crazy what is going on in college athletics right now. Mm-hmm. And if we don't get a handle on it, I think that the free market will fix this stuff. And you know, if I were today, I think back to one of the smartest people of all time, our man Jiminy Cricket. You remember Jiminy Cricket?
Absolutely.
How does this ring a bell? Listen, remember these? Can you hear that, Franz?
I hear it.
And now Jiminy Cricket used to sing these things about.
No siree. I want to live to be 93. I play safe for you and me because I'm no fool.
Remember that? I'm no fool. And I tell you right now, the free market, sports fans in America, they're not going to put up with it. Everybody gets so worried about decisions made up above them, but there's 330 million people in this country. There's 535 representatives and a president and a vice president. We, the people, always get our way. Sometimes we wait till the house is on fire to go try to buy some fire insurance, but we will fix this. We live in the greatest country, friends, in the history of the world. Our money says in God we trust. We're smart. American people are smart. We'll figure it out. You know that song Alabama did, Song of the South? And the opening in the video to that song is like, a virtual Sahara Desert in the Midwest, plight and poverty and drought, famine everywhere, farms going broke every day, people leaving, deserting. This country is in shambles. We talked to farmer Alec Gillis. Well, we're Americans. America's been through hardship before, and we'll figure it out. We're going to do that, aren't we, friends? And Wes Morris.
Let me tell you what is going to happen, and you can mark my words that it will. If the schools that are in Division I secede, which they are going to do, and form a brand new organization, they can do it, and they can be challenged, but they'll lose. The challengers will lose. Because what they can do is they can form a brand new organization with brand new rules. Yeah. And because it is a voluntary join. And your athletic departments are going to become private organizations, which they are now, only they're under the umbrella of the university. They're going to start renting the stadiums and renting the arenas and the practice facilities. And they're going to be able to hire players, and it's going to be what you're going to see is screw academics. You can go to school if you want. You can take underwater basket weaving if you wish, whatever like that. But the players are going to become paid employees. They're going to have collective bargaining, and this is going to happen. I don't like it, but guess what? The combination of this thing that the NCAA thinks that it's all got to be fair. What's fair for Bowling Green has to be fair for Auburn. That's nothing can be further than the truth. Auburn's got a track and field stadium that's better than Deutsch Perry Field. I bet you didn't know it was named Deutsch Perry Field, did you? Now you know something that you didn't know already. Right. But, LSU's track and field stadium, trust me, is far superior to Deutsch Perry Stadium. They're a high school stadium. They play high school football in Hoover at the old Metropolitan Stadium football. It's better than Deutsch Perry. It's a high school, and it's an old baseball stadium converted. But just the same, you're going to have that. I don't like it, but you say we're Americans and we're smart, and this is how we're going to show it that we're smart. The NCAA does a dandy job of organizing events. The NCAA tournament is well organized. Yeah. The gymnastics national championship, very well organized, and on and on and on. They do a great job of organizing events. What they're going to become is an organizing body for Division I for all the other sports. And football is going to be separate. And this is how they're going to get around it, because if they stay in the NCAA, and let's say you make a rule says all of a sudden, oh, you can't have a trans athlete in the NCAA. Well, the NCAA already said you can. Now you're saying you can't. That's one thing. Now, the only other solution is this, and that's what's going on like with swimming.
Yeah.
And that is Leah Thomas is banned from competing in any event sponsored by the international governing body for swimming.
Yeah.
And other sports are doing the same thing, and they need to.
Yeah.
They need to, because can you imagine, okay, some 6'10", 255-pound kid who averages 2 points and 2 rebounds a game in 4 minutes, or maybe he's like Jason Jacobo, who I call a 5x5x5 guy, 5 minutes, 5 points, and 5 fouls. Let's say this guy says, I'm getting in touch with my feminine side.
Yeah.
And, and by the way, they'll tolerate my dangling participle in the over there in the women's locker room, because at 6'10" and 255, guess what? We're going to win the national championship because I will control the paint like nobody else can.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to be careful. I mean, I'm telling you, sports, people love sports because they see real life played out on a football field, a basketball court, a baseball diamond, swimming, gymnastics. Michael Phelps talked at length in many interviews about why he loves swimming so much, because he's ADHD and OCD, and he likes that structure. I have the same thing, but I'm not Michael Phelps, but I love to swim because you're in those lanes, you've got structure. And sports continue to gain in popularity. We got the portal now. We talked about that. It's hard to keep up. That's why you got websites like GatorBaitMedia.com. I got to give you a compliment here. Again, everybody, if you love sports, subscribe to GatorBaitMedia.com, and I'll tell you why. You need to know what's going on in a place like Florida, but that staff, Franz Beard, Buddy Martin, and y'all got some other young writers that y'all are mentoring. They're going to be great writers as long as they're at GatorBait, and some of them might eventually leave and go on to other places, but they'll be trained by you and Buddy. We better get a handle on and bring back true grit journalism, because so much of what's out there now is trying to get it first, Franz, as you know, versus trying to get it right. If someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to buy this stock or this fund or whatever, I've got to do my due diligence. And there are times I'm going to say, look, look, it'd be great, the business, but I'm not going to take it because it's not a good fit. It's not suitable for you. I think in sports, what we've got going on right now, people love to say, well, Texas A&M has all the money in the world, and they do. They got a ton of it, but they're not stupid. But I think one more year like they had this past year, I think they're going to get crazy, and they will buy out Jimbo Fisher, and he'll go do something else. I don't know if Bobby Petrino will get the job. I think those two on the sidelines, or one's, Petrino's in the press box or whatever, that's going to be tough. How many times have you seen coaches who are always the play caller say they're going to change? We're going to get Butter. We're going to get a new coach. Doesn't happen. Friends, you think about it, and I hope Wess is okay. Wess Moore is supposed to be on with us. We'll have to get him back on later in the week up in Little Rock, ESPN 103.7 The Buzz. But, you're looking at Arkansas. You talk about facilities. You've seen the indoor track and field. There's no college in America. It's not even what they have at Arkansas. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, was on the show with us. He is every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Central, batting in the leadoff position. Hey, guess what? 49 national championships at Arkansas in track and field and cross country, men's and women's.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call a dynasty.
Well, here's a dynasty for you. In the history of the SEC, who has the most Southeastern Conference championships?
In what sport?
All sports.
All sports. I believe it's, let me think. Let me think here. I'm thinking that it's going to be, I think it's LSU or Florida in terms of total national championships of current members. It might be Florida.
Florida, and second place isn't even close.
Yeah.
Florida has 260 SEC championships as of yesterday.
Wait. Oh, SEC champ. I thought you meant national championships.
Well, national championships, Florida, national championships, I think Florida's there too.
But Florida's got 260 in men's and women's sports all time.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Second place is Georgia with 149.
Who's third?
Who is third? Actually, believe it or not, it is Arkansas, followed by Tennessee.
And after that?
After that comes LSU with 112.
And after that?
Auburn was 75. Alabama with 103. Then Auburn was 75. Kentucky was 76. Auburn was 75. Kentucky has 76 SEC championships, and 49 of them are in basketball.
Wow. Okay, let's keep going down that list because we cover the SEC and your favorite team. So let's go through that whole list if you got it.
Okay, I'll start it from the top. Florida 260. Georgia 149, Arkansas 139, Tennessee 138, LSU 112, Alabama 103, Kentucky 76, Auburn 75. Then it drops down to 28 for Mississippi State, 21 for Ole Miss, 19 for 21 for Vanderbilt, 19 for South Carolina, 16 for A&M, and then bringing up the rear, the University of Missouri, which has 2 SEC championships in women's tennis.
And that's it.
That's it.
I mean, obviously, they're Texas A&M and Missouri have a long history in the Big 8, the Big 12, and all that. So that's interesting. But in terms of overall athletic department, friends, Florida, has won the Bernie Moore Trophy a number of times. 260 SEC championships. Like when Florida has an off season in any sport, really, the big ones especially, what it reminds me of is somebody who is a part of a really wealthy family that has a big trust fund that, you see them following formerly the Grateful Dead or now the Widespread Panic or whatever, just going around the country, just living the life. I mean, because I've always said this about Florida, they've got everything in the world going for them. And even with Florida State ascending and Miami, and now they're, Florida State, I think, is coming back. Miami it's a mess. But that 200, I'd like to know, Southern Cal or something, maybe UCLA would be close, but to win 260 conference championships.
Yeah, that's pretty darn good if you think about it.
It's extraterrestrial good, friends.
Yeah, it's kind of, I kind of, Florida has already won 5 SEC championships this year.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I don't know if you happened to pay attention to the golf championship, but Florida won it, and the number 2 team was Vanderbilt, which had won the 3 previous ones. And Florida comes in there, and it was pretty impressive.
It's friends, we're about out of time. I want to say most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us, and just think about this. Every day, go out and make a positive impact. Let people know they matter. Don't give to get, give to give. And Sidelines, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we get the best guests out there. People like Franz Beard. And friends, tell them how they can follow you and keep up with you. And And also Wess Moore, who is missing in action today. AWOL. I don't know. I hope he's okay. Wess Moore. We'll try to get him back on during the week. But I always love. I wish I could. I'm going to have to go back and I'll listen to the show. I do every show and trying to find out how to make them better. Take notes on what Franz just said about these SEC championships. Off the charts. But how can they follow you and the great work at Gatorbait?
GatorbaitMedia.com. We're bright and shiny there, and everybody just come on and take a look every day. I write Monday through Thursday a Thoughts of the Day column, and I'll write some on the weekend for something I'm covering. I haven't figured out what yet, but I will figure out something this week for the weekend. But anyway, it's we have a site where we actually do write, and we're not about we're playing Western Walla Walla this week, and we're gonna wear pink socks, purple pants, and green shirts. And
there you go.
I mean, these are thought to be stories by some sites, and I mean they do this. Okay, they're wearing blue chin straps to honor Billy Bob Beasley, who died in a plane crash in 1919 while he was trying to get to the induction center so he could go fight in the war.
Yeah. Well, look, let me tell you something. We want this show, our mission every day is to make every episode of Sidelines 6 days a week, 50 plus hours a month of content. Our mission is to make this show prep for every other show out there. We keep the best guests out there, the greatest minds in sports. And also, thank God our friend Buddy Martin is okay. He told us on the show Saturday morning in the roundtable, he'd been in an accident. Thank God he's okay. But hey, Monday through Thursday nights, check them out. The Buddy Martin Show, 9 p.m. Eastern, Facebook, Twitter. It's awesome. Friends, have a great day. Everybody listening, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Act like it. Poke your chest out. We'll see you tomorrow. We're out of here.